Yes, people, what is happening? Welcome back to another Guna Souls video where we are going to be previewing the Bournemouth Arsenal game that is happening Saturday at 5:30. This is meant to be a spectacular in a sense of we should be feasting on goals, and it's going to be a statement performance in my personal opinion. So we're going to be getting into it. We're going to be hearing what Arteta has to say about this game in terms of availability, in terms of his press conference and what his thoughts are on the transfer window. And he does get asked about the likes of Pepe, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Hector Bellerin, and more. So we'll be kind of just jumping right into it. It's the first preview of the season that I've done, so it's going to be interesting. Do smash that like button. Do subscribe if you're new, or follow on Twitch, whatever you do. Support the channel, people. It costs you nothing, and it does massively, massively help. So kind of just getting into it. Obviously, we've had a brilliant start to the season. And we've had two games where we've won, and I feel like we've won comfortably in some form. You know, I know the Crystal Palace game had a few shaky moments in there, but we did overcome that and beat them 2-0. So there's a lot of positives to take from that. You know, coming back in that mental phase as well, and not kind of losing that game. And then when you kind of go into the Leicester game as well, we saw a lot in that game to give us hope for the season. We didn't drop our heads and we made mistakes, because both those goals came off the back of mistakes, in my opinion. You know, William Saliba scoring an own goal, and obviously Ramsdale being beat at the near post are two things you don't really want to be seeing. Keepers don't like being beat at their near post, and obviously defenders don't want to be scoring on goals. They want clean sheets. So it's good to see that their heads haven't dropped. I mean, the response from those two players going into this game is going to be really vital for me to see whether some form is lingering around or not. But in the game itself, they responded really well. So I'm hoping that kind of goes into this game coming against Bournemouth. We are playing away, and we're playing at 5:30, so that's going to be interesting. We've had earlier kickoffs, and obviously we had one on a Friday night opening the season. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. But kind of kicking off into the Bournemouth game, I kind of just need to get their results. But we know what Scott Parker teams are like. You know, he's been at Fulham and he's been in the Premier League with them. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see whether he goes with what we know him to be, which is kind of a not no defense, but does not like to sit back. You know, and he likes to play attacking football or progressive football. And he's not one of those managers who brings a promoted team to just sit back and defend. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see whether he goes for that, or does he change up his tactics and kind of just switches things around to kind of nullify our strengths. Because he kind of spoke about it in his press conference that there's a lot of threats we've got to be aware of, and we are, sort of planning for those and kind of training to see how we can nullify Arsenal and their strengths, whilst also being aware of kind of what we do well and what we don't do so well. So it's going to be interesting to see how his strategy goes into the game. But kind of talking about their season so far, opening up on a Saturday, second day of the Premier League, they played Aston Villa at home and they beat them 2-0. Prior to that, they had a friendly against Real Sociedad where they lost 2-1. They played Bristol City, losing 1-0. Braga, losing 2-1. They played Sheffield Wednesday, which they beat. So their last sort of few games have been up and down. They've not been really on form or on fire. But their last game, they got pammed 4-0 against Man City. That could have been more. There was a bit of naivety from some of the Manchester City players, not realizing they have a number 9 now that's going to be in the box to cut back. So there could have been maybe, 1, 2, maybe even 3 goals or more in this game. So it's interesting to see that they were getting carved open for chances, and, they weren't able to kind of play around that. They didn't have answers for that. I believe against Man City, they only had like 1 or 2 shots as well. Yeah, they have 3 shots, 1 on target, 33% possession, half the amount of passes. Yeah, they like one corner, you know, it was really a one-sided affair. And the way that we play is very similar to the way Man City play, like high pressing football. So this could really work in our favour. Again, Bournemouth did play away for this fixture, so it's interesting to see whether their home form is somewhere where they're going to be strong, and when teams visit them, that's where teams are going to struggle. It's going to be kind of interesting to see the difference in Bournemouth's game. I still think we're going to steamroll them. I still think we're going to make a statement against them. I'm seeing a potential Gabriel Jesus hat trick. He is triple captain on my FPL. I've kind of taken the risk. I've gone with it. I've gone balls deep on that one. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see whether he can pull that off for me or not. So got to wait and see. I mean, he had a magnificent game against Leicester. Could have scored like 5 or 6 goals, if we're being completely honest as well. So we'll see how his form goes in coming into this season, coming into this game, sorry. And when we kind of talk about other players, I mean, we've got to talk about Bukayo Saka and we've got to talk about Martin Odegaard. Now, I'm not saying they had bad games by any stretch of the imagination against the likes of Leicester. Against Crystal Palace, they were a lot quieter. But as a duo, they really do need to step up and impose themselves and not shy away at the fact that Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli are shining at the moment. And that, by no stretch of the imagination, means that Saka and Odegaard are shying away or that they're not shining as much. It just means that there's a level to go for those two. As a duo, as players individually, we know they can do more. Bukayo Saka should be scoring and assisting. We know he can carry this team through adversity, through sort of needing him to get us through. And that's what I want to see. I want to see him impose himself on games a little bit more. That's the next step in his development. And I feel like getting someone to maybe compete against him could open up them doors for him to develop himself to be better. But it's not a bash on him. It's just a bit of constructive criticism to help him grow. And I feel like that's fine to do. Just because things are good doesn't mean we can't talk about certain things that are going to help players in the long run. And I feel like the club will be and the coaches will be talking to him about that he needs to impose himself. He can't shy away just because other players have stepped up a little bit. And it's primarily this goes to Odegaard because we need that captain to step up and raise his level, just as much as we need the team to do it, and as much as we need him to get the team motivated, to get the team, wanting to play football and winning games. So it's going to be interesting to see how Martin Odegaard does and whether he can somewhat destroy the away narrative that has kind of built around him. Oh, shit. Because of the Mesut Ozil situation, for example, a lot of people think he's going to be that Mesut Ozil type where at home he's brilliant, away from home he's not so good. And that's not the narrative we need to be, that he needs to be building for himself. What he needs to be doing is imposing himself regardless of where that game is being played. The last thing we need is a club captain that can't perform away from home. We don't need that. We don't need that in his current stage of his career as well. As much as, yes, there's growth for him to come, we need him to be doing it now. We need him to be imposing himself as the captain of the Arsenal Football Club and raising his level as much as we need other people to raise their level. So the question is always going to be, whether he can do that or not, and whether he can, raise his level above the team in those sticky situations. There were times in the Crystal Palace game where I felt, we needed Odegaard to impose himself and take control of the game, and we didn't really see that. So it's going to be interesting to see whether in this game, if those moments do come where we need him to do what he's really good at, like in terms of tempo controlling, in terms of just taking control of the midfield, if he can do that or not. So that's a question mark on those two players. I mean, the lineup kind of makes itself in essence, but what I want to do before that is kind of talk about Mikel Arteta's press conference before this game happens. So kind of just going into that, I might as well just share my screen actually so that you guys can also read along with what's being said. How do we do it now? There we go. Let's see if that works. Here we go. So, press conference happened. This is Football London for those who want to refer to a source or just want to know where I'm getting my information from. So, let's kind of just get into it, really, and just see what's going on here. So, Arteta on team news. Everybody's okay. We saw Cedric and Fabio and Emil play for the under 21s. They played with us and are available for selection. So obviously, as many people may have seen the video going around of Fabio Vieira missing that header early on in the game in the under 21s, we can see that these guys have been playing and trying to get to match fitness without the intensity of the Premier League, which is the perfect time to kind of evaluate. And I feel like we're doing something good here in a sense of we're taking an old school approach in rehabilitation and an old school approach in how we're bringing players back from fitness, because we don't have to have Emil, Fabio, and Cedric currently, being rushed back. We want them to play in games. We want them to get that match fitness without putting them in situations which are high intensity and must win situations. They're levels ahead of the under 21s. So even if they're half fit or they're just playing at a lower intensity, they can still impose themselves. So it's a brilliant way to get players back to fitness and evaluate them in a situation which isn't a risk to the league in itself. So that's brilliant to be seeing that we're taking these kinds of approaches and these kinds of cautions on players who can have reoccurring injuries and just general fitness. Like even if you look at Tomiyasu, in the previous week, he played for the under 21s. Then he was given a 20 to 30-minute cameo against Leicester, and we're going to be building his fitness up that way, which is amazing to see that we're starting to be a bit more patient with players coming back. We're kind of moving on to the next thing that was spoken about, and that was Arteta on the Pepe rumours. What we can communicate, we always do when it's the right moment. We discuss what we have, a big squad, and we've allowed some players to leave. Until the end of the window, anything can happen. I mean, they're always obscure in terms of, sort of transfer talk. I mean, we'll get onto Maitland-Niles and Bellerin. We are addressing those things personally, not at the moment, no updates. It's like other situations at the moment. So general, sort of transfer talk, I mean, the club doesn't give anything away. It doesn't show its hand. It doesn't show whether they're selling or keeping a player. And that seems to be the strategy going forward, is we're not going to allow teams to know what we're thinking, because if Arteta comes out and says, yes, we want to get rid of Pepe, whatever, it kind of shows other teams that he's become a deadwood player for us and that he's no longer part of the plans of how we move forward. So it's a good approach to take, actually, and it kind of makes clubs want to act quicker. I know with the Pepe situation, it's looking like a loan move, and that's not really ideal. It doesn't really matter whether we show our hands or not, but it's a good standing point to be strong in your position that you're not absolutely desperate, but we kind of want to sell him. And the same with sort of the Maitland-Niles and Bellerin situation. I feel like they're going to be free transfers, in my opinion. The ship has sailed on both of those, getting big fees in for Arteta on whether the start of the season has had an impact on transfer plans. No, we are still in the same position in the market. It's the same position. The market gives a lot of information. We are focusing on the players that we have right now. Again, doesn't want to show his hands. Kind of just typical, but he does talk about the Saka contract situation. I am very confident that we as a club and Bakayo and his family and agents are all aligned now. It's about putting things on paper. I would like to get it done because I don't want players distracted in the season. But I do know these things take time, and that's it really. I mean, that's why we weren't hearing Saka talk until the end of the season. That was nothing to do with where we finish or how we finish. It's just a matter of bringing these sort of situations mid-season do cause disruptions, for the player, because there's meetings going on, agents need to talk. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of policies and kind of add-ons and bonuses and all of that kind of thing that needs to be spoken about. So it's really kind of intriguing and kind of a stance I feel like Arsenal are taking. That when it's the season, you focus on your football. After the season, we'll get all of the admin and external stuff done, such as contracts and transfers, etc. So it's a really good approach to take, and I mean, it just keeps people focused on the task at hand. He was asked about the Marquinhos situation into the winger that came in that's playing in the under-21s. We're very happy with him. He's adapted really well. He's a likable figure, even if his language is not great yet. It seems like we're not going to loan him out until at least January, if that is the situation. He talks about Fabio Vieira. His versatility is something that caught our eyes, and we believe he's going to give us a lot of options. The relationship with Emil on that side can be very powerful. That's actually really interesting because he talks about him and ESR, not him and Martinelli potentially. So it's going to be very intriguing and something to keep your eyes on to see how that one forms and where Martinelli goes if that is the case. He spoke about Ramsdale. I think Aaron is pretty good at the start of the season. If you put the cameras when someone makes a mistake, they feel it. It takes a few days to heal. I think it's good inside that they care. And that kind of is just a summary of kind of what was spoken about and what was said in the press conference. So, and not a lot was revealed in terms of transfer plans, in terms of Arsenal moving forward. We know that, Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Cedric will be available for selection in this game. And that's huge, by the way, because what we've got to also understand and what we've got to comprehend is the 5 substitutions that are happening now. So it gives us way more options. It gives us so much more that we can do. We can bring Fabio Vieira, who's different to a Granit Xhaka. We can bring in Emil Smith-Rowe into this game if Martinelli isn't doing what he needs to do, or, Saka isn't doing what he needs to do, or even Odegaard not doing what he needs to do. So it gives us a few attacking options now, bringing off the bench. Instead of it just being Eddie Nketiah or Nicola Pepe, it gives us more variety and it gives us more chances to change things and bring 2 10s on, or have 2 10s on the pitch, or 3/8 if people want to call it that. So it's a very interesting stance, and it's a very interesting sub bench that we can have going forward in this game. So, I mean, Granit Xhaka has been on brilliant form, but sometimes you need that cutting edge, or you need that sort of creativity that a Fabio Vieira could offer, or someone who's a bit more direct and a bit more of a goal threat. Then, not saying Granit Xhaka is, he's getting into the positions, but it's not in his natural ability to just finish it or have that killer instinct in him. I do feel like he's developing it over time, but again, when you have someone who's just got the natural ability to an eye for goal, it's different. It's just a different feeling. It's a different mentality. But again, it gives us a difference when when you're struggling or to open up oppositions. I don't really see a lot changing in this game in terms of lineups and in terms of how we approach this game. I feel like it'll still be Ramsdale at the back, and I think Benjamin White will still play as a right back. It'll be William Saliba and Gabriel with Zinchenko at left back. I still see Partey playing the 6th role. Granit Xhaka will still be on that sort of left 8 with Odegaard on the right, Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli. I don't see all of that changing, to be completely honest with you. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Do people see any changes happening? Are there any sort of surprise players? I'm not saying Tierney's a surprise but do we see players being sort of rotated in this game? Because that'd be very interesting to hear from people. Because we've not really got much coming up. It's not like there's a Europa League game in midweek that we need to be worrying about. So I just don't see things changing personally. But I do see him sticking to the same 11 just for now. And then you'll see the likes of Tomiyasu and Kieran Tierney getting those minutes just to get more minutes in their legs before I feel like they'll start. I still think they're about maybe 2 to 5 games away from becoming starters again. And it's not about proving themselves or anything. It's just more about giving them the opportunities to get those match fitness moments within them and not risking them for too long to the point where you could be aggravating these injuries, especially with Kieran Tierney, who's had knee problem after knee problem after knee problem. So it's going to be quite nice to just ease them in, just see how they're doing, and not having the need to play them. I feel like there's a difference in wanting and needing to play a player. When you're in that situation where you need to play a player, you're gonna just rush them back. You're gonna bring them back early because at the very first sign that you can play them, rather than when now, yeah, like cool, now we can play him and not risk him. Hi Russell, how you doing, man? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good evening. Just kind of talking about the Arsenal game. If you've got any thoughts, it'll be brilliant to hear from you. Um, so yeah, it's just interesting. Like I'm liking this under 21. Sort of give them minutes in the under 21s, bring them on for like a 20-30 minute cameo, and kind of just giving them those moments to kind of shine in a way, and just allowing players to kind of adapt to new positions as well. That's why I feel like the Zinchenko signing is brilliant, because it allows us to have midfield cover, but also cover for the left back, but also a different dynamic if we need to play both Zinchenko and Tierney, just for more defensive solidity. They can rotate, play into a back five, with sort of Zinchenko bombing on forward, or Kieran Tierney playing more of an inverted wing back role. So it's interesting. I feel like the dynamics and what we can do in terms of tactical fluidity can be very good, especially when we play the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Man City. It can be a very good way of just changing our structure without changing it too much. But yeah, like I will be wrapping up. If any of you have any questions or any kind of anything you want to ask me, the floor is yours. Ask away. It'd be interesting to get a bit of interaction going as well. But kind of like finalizing everything, I kind of think this game's going to be a statement, in my opinion. I have been wrong in the past when I've said this, so I kind of do want to bite my tongue, but I just see us winning this. I see us steamrolling them. I see us absolutely battering them and making a statement. I know we've done that against Crystal Palace, and I know we've done that against Leicester, but this could be one of those statement line performances in terms of 5-6-0. Russell here saying, I've watched Marquinhos. I think he'll be a hit for us. I agree. I really do agree. I think he's showing all the right signs. I mean, we are seemingly easing him in, similar to what we did with Gabriel Martinelli when he first came in. I see, like, with us being in the Europa League, he will be perfect for the group stage games. And then kind of taking it from there, he could actually make himself into a household name playing in those group stages, and then kind of just saying to Arteta, look, this is what I've done. Give me a chance. Because even when we've seen him in the preseason, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an avid watcher of the under 21s. It's probably something I need to do a bit more of. But they sometimes are on like very strange times, so it can be sometimes a little bit difficult to catch their games. But he looks phenomenal. Like, he looks really good, and he could be one of those players in the future who can challenge Saka for his position. So it'd be interesting to hear other people's thoughts as well on what they think of the early stages of him and his sort of development, whether he's got a future at Arsenal. I think it's early to say. I don't want to write him off, and I don't want to kind of just say, yeah, he's definitely got a future or he's got world-class potential, because I don't know enough yet. I've not seen enough yet to kind of make those kinds of judgments. But I like what I see so far from a player like him. I think the other one that I kind of like the looks of is Brooke Norton-Cruyff. He's on loan at the minute, but he looks to be a right back that we could really do with. Very good attackingly, and he kind of is a different dynamic to what we've already got. We've got the assembled here saying we are making a statement. We're beating teams of. I don't mean it in that sense, as in like, oh my god, like we beat Liverpool or something. And I mean it in terms of a statement scoreline, in terms of like Man City just rolling them over. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like a 5-0, a 6-0 win, like a very, very convincing just domination. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know people are going to sit here and say that, well, that's not a statement when we're meant to be doing this. But I feel like we haven't been scoring. That's one of those things that are still within, sort of a lot of rivals, a lot of Arsenal fans are still thinking, can we keep these goal scoring form up? And I feel like the perfect opportunity to kind of showcase that is a team like Bournemouth, make a statement against them, absolutely batter them, because that's a way that you can show, the consistency that actually it's not just a fluke that we scored 6 and 2 or like 20 in the 5 games that we played in preseason. So that's what I kind of mean. I know people are going to disagree with the word statement being used in this game or for this game, but that's kind of what I'm coming from. Like in a sense of a steamrolling scoreline where just pure domination. That's just my personal take on it. I mean, people are going to disagree. People are going to think differently, and that's the beauty of football, in my opinion. So, what are your guys' score predictions? That'd be really interesting to hear, because I'm hearing a lot of like 3-0s, 3-1s, that kind of thing. But for me, I think it's going to be much higher than that. I do see a 5-0, 6-0 potentially coming. I kind of see the way that I see us sustaining the start of the Sevilla game in this, just pressing them, just being relentless, and just scoring for the fun of scoring, and that's kind of what I want to see. That's a hope in a way as well. At the end of the day, you want the 3 points, you want the W, you want the win. You want 3 in a row. Then we go into our next game, and then the next, and just keep doing what we're doing, and then hopefully, because our next big game, but it's not a big game anymore at the moment, is Manchester United. So you kind of want to go in there with 15 out of 15 points, preferably go into that game with very, very high confidence, and then just roll them over too. So people are coming to my wavelength now. Okay, so 5-0. So, I mean, I'm guessing we're all kind of confident going into this. So that's kind of what I want to be seeing. I am confident. I am very I don't see this being, I just see this being one-way traffic. I just see this being a game we dictate, even though it's away from home. But again, guys, I am going to be wrapping it up. If there are any other questions or any other thoughts on the game or what Mikel Arteta has said in his press conference, I'd absolutely love to hear from you guys. If you guys are new to the channel, do hit that subscribe button. Do like the video as well. It does massively, massively help the channel out. And yeah, just hope you like the content that's coming. I am trying to be more consistent this season. So hopefully I can do at least weekly uploads, and that will be the aim. But yeah, guys, if you've got any questions at all, any thoughts on the game that you'd like to share, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just kind of wrap it up here and we can call it a night. The Arsenal squad will be shown to be weak. All it'll take is a few suspension and injuries, and we'll be back to square one, i.e., no plan B. 2-0 equals win. No, I know what you're trying to say, like in terms of Xhaka getting suspended, Partey getting injured, but I do feel like we're a bit more prepared this season for those things happening. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I get proven to be wrong, but I see that we're more prepared in terms of, as long as we don't get like 4 or 5, at the same time, we shouldn't be too. I don't think it's too problematic. I think one of the big issues last season was Nuno Tavares coming in and on Sambi or El Neni coming in, and the fact that we didn't have Tomiyasu, so Cedric was playing there. It was just a lot of key components were just getting injured at the same time, or were injured all at the same time. So, I don't see that happening too much. I mean, Ben White's now moved on to the right back position, who plays similarly to Tomiyasu. So I don't see that being too big of an issue. And then, you've got the likes of, Tomiyasu can come in, or you've got, worst case scenario, you've got Cedric playing there. But then when you look at, the only position is Thomas Partey, but I feel like El Neni's fine as long as it's just El Neni being in there and everyone else is the same. I don't see that being too big of a problem. Now we've got Zinchenko coming in for Kieran Tierney. So we appear to be, that's the difference. I mean, there's no other way to judge it, really. I mean, like, how else would you put it? I mean, we've got enough depth, in my opinion, and quality in those positions to not need to worry too much about the ones who do get injured a lot. And I just don't see it as that big of like. I don't think it's that big of a concern to where we need to be this season. I don't see us competing for the title. I don't see us challenging for it or winning it. So we'll be fine. I think for top four, we're in a good place in terms of the overall squad. To get the next level, of course, we're going to need more players. But I feel like that happens with time. I mean, we've got to take it a step at a time. We can't run before we can walk. And I feel like this time we just need to secure ourselves top four, get a trophy, or preferably get the Europa League and get top four comfortably. And then next season, we can get those players who are going to add the quality, add the depth that we need to compete for the title and potentially win a title. So, yeah, we've just got to be a bit We've got to be a bit patient with it as well. We can't just start now leapfrogging things. And I feel like we're good enough. I don't see it being an issue. I know people are because they have PTSD and reservations about what's happened in the past, but I don't see it being that big of a problem at the moment. I'm liking our depth. I'm liking the positions we filled, but I mean, I could be on my own on that one. But yeah, no, that's my thoughts on it. I mean, we can disagree. I'm not here to be an echo chamber. I love when my points are maybe challenged a little bit and making me think about it in a way as well. But from a depth perspective, I just don't see us collapsing the way that we have. And also those second options are not inexperienced. They've kind of been in and around certain dressing rooms as well. And we've got enough leaders. That's the key as well. And it's not like when Kieran Tierney is out, that's it, we'll lose a winner. No, we replace him with another winner. You know, when Party exits, okay, that's the only big downshift. But other than that, everyone else is a very competent or a very high level football player, in my opinion. That the drop off isn't too significant. But thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I think we'll wrap it up there. I feel like we've answered everything. And I know, so I want you guys to have a good Friday evening. But thank you very much for tuning in. Do subscribe if you're new. Do like the video and do share. You can follow me on Twitter just to keep up to date with everything that's going on, which is Gunnar Souls on Twitter. And thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Take care.